I was engaged to Amanda for 3 wonderful years. We met at the University of Washington during our sophomore year and built what I thought was an unbreakable bond. She was my best friend, my partner, and the woman I planned to spend my life with. Everything changed 6 months ago when she joined that new gym downtown. At first, I was happy for her newfound passion for fitness. I encouraged her as she transformed physically, dropping 40 pounds and toning her body. What I didn't expect was how her heart would change alongside her appearance. I never imagined she would look me in the eyes and say those words that shattered everything. Before I tell you how my fiancée went from planning our wedding to telling me I wasn't good enough for her new lifestyle, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had someone you love change right before your eyes. Amanda and I first crossed paths during a rainy October afternoon in a campus coffee shop. I was struggling with a complex coding assignment, and she asked if she could share my table since the place was packed. Something about her warm smile and genuine interest in my boring programming talk made me instantly comfortable around her. We discovered we both loved hiking the Pacific Northwest trails, cooking experimental recipes on weekends, and binge-watching sci-fi series. After graduation, we decided to move in together, finding a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Seattle's Fremont neighborhood. I landed a job as a software engineer at a growing tech company, while Amanda secured a position as a marketing coordinator for a local business. We supported each other through the challenges of starting our careers and celebrated every small victory together. She would surprise me with homemade cookies when I was working late, and I would massage her shoulders after her stressful days dealing with demanding clients. Our relationship felt different from what I observed in other couples. We rarely fought, and when we disagreed, we worked through issues with patience and understanding. Amanda would often say we were relationship goals to her friends, and I privately took pride in that. We shared dreams of buying a house in a few years, possibly starting a family, and maybe even opening a small business together someday. After 3 years together, I decided it was time to propose. I spent months planning the perfect moment at Mount Rainier, her favorite spot in Washington. On a clear summer day against the backdrop of the majestic mountain and wildflowers in bloom, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. Her eyes filled with tears as she said yes, and that evening, surrounded by our closest friends at a surprise engagement party I had arranged, felt like the happiest moment of my life. The first subtle changes began about 8 months ago, when Amanda decided to join Evolve Fit, an upscale gym that had recently opened downtown. She had mentioned wanting to get in better shape for our wedding, and I fully supported her. I even helped her research different gyms before she settled on this one, attracted by their personalized training programs and state-of-the-art equipment. During the first few weeks, Amanda would come home energized, talking excitedly about her workouts and the friendly community she was finding there. She started losing weight gradually, and her confidence seemed to grow alongside her fitness gains. I was genuinely happy for her, complimenting her dedication and the positive changes I could see not just in her appearance but in her overall energy levels. About a month into her new fitness journey, I noticed Amanda spending more time on her phone, frequently smiling at messages and tagging new names in her social media posts. She mentioned names like Tiffany, Jake, and Brandon, her new gym friends who were apparently helping her stay motivated. What started as 3 weekly gym sessions soon expanded to 5+ weekend fitness events, meal prep gatherings, and protein shake meetups after work. Our time together began shrinking noticeably. Movie nights were often canceled because she was too tired from training or had early morning sessions the next day. When I suggested a Saturday hike like we used to enjoy, Amanda would say she had already committed to a group workout or a fitness expo with her gym friends. I dismissed my growing concerns, telling myself it was natural for people to develop new interests and friendships. But other small changes started to accumulate. Amanda began taking longer, getting ready, buying expensive workout clothes, and often typing messages with her phone angled away from me. When I would casually ask who she was texting so intently, her answers became vague. Just gym stuff, or making plans with the fitness crew. Despite these subtle shifts, I remained supportive and patient. After all, I reasoned this was making her happy and healthy. What kind of partner would I be if I discouraged something so positive? As Amanda's physical transformation continued, the emotional distance between us grew increasingly difficult to ignore. 6 months into her fitness journey, she had lost nearly 40 pounds and completely reshaped her body. While I consistently expressed admiration for her dedication, her responses to my compliments became oddly dismissive. One evening, as I told her how beautiful she looked, she replied, "Thanks, but I still have a long way to go," then added, "You know, you could really benefit from joining the gym too, Craig." It was the first of many similar comments that would follow. Our physical intimacy dwindled noticeably. Amanda would often claim she was too sore from working out or needed to wake up early for a training session. When we did connect physically, I sensed a detachment that hadn't existed before, as though she were mentally elsewhere. Her social media transformation was equally striking. Once filled with photos of us together hiking trips and food adventures, her Instagram now showcased gym selfies, progress photos, and group pictures with her fitness circle. I noticed one name appearing with increasing frequency in the comments: Jake, a personal trainer at Evolve Fit, whose encouraging messages seemed to carry a flirtatious undertone. I tried various approaches to reconnect with Amanda. I surprised her with tickets to a concert by her favorite band, planned special date nights at restaurants that accommodated her new dietary preferences, and even bought her high-end workout gear she had been eyeing. While she expressed gratitude for these gestures, they never seemed to rekindle the enthusiasm she once had for our time together. Perhaps most concerning was her diminishing interest in our wedding plans. Previously, she had been excited about venue hunting and creating wedding boards on Pinterest. Now, when I brought up wedding topics, she would say things like, "We have plenty of time to figure that out," or "I want to reach my fitness goals before I start trying on dresses." When I suggested setting a date, she claimed she was too focused on an upcoming fitness competition to think about wedding timelines. As the weeks passed, anxiety grew in the pit of my stomach. I found myself constantly checking her social media, looking for clues about what was happening to our relationship. I lost sleep wondering if I was overreacting or if something fundamental was truly changing between us. The woman I had proposed to was physically still beside me, but emotionally she seemed to be drifting further away each day. The first major fracture in our relationship became impossible to ignore during a dinner party Amanda organized at our apartment. She had invited several of her gym friends, including Jake the trainer, Tiffany, who taught spin classes, and Brandon, who apparently competed in bodybuilding competitions. I spent the afternoon helping Amanda prepare healthy appetizers that fit everyone's specific dietary requirements, keto-friendly, high-protein, dairy-free options that she insisted were necessary. When her friends arrived, I tried my best to be welcoming and engaged, but the conversation rarely strayed from fitness topics, supplement regimens, and upcoming competitions that left me with little to contribute. Jake, a tall, muscular guy with perfectly styled hair and a too-white smile, seemed to command particular attention from Amanda. They shared inside jokes from the gym, and I noticed how her laugh with him sounded different, more animated than I had heard from her in months. During dinner, I excused myself to get more water from the kitchen. As I approached the dining room again, I overheard Amanda's voice. "Craig is supportive and everything, but he just doesn't get the lifestyle. You know, sometimes I feel like he's still stuck in our college days while I am evolving. You cannot expect everyone to keep up with your transformation," Jake responded. "Some people just plateau in life." The others laughed, and I stood frozen in the hallway, a glass of water in my hand and a knot forming in my stomach. I somehow made it through the rest of that evening, putting on a smile while feeling increasingly like a stranger in my own home. When the last guest finally left around midnight, I confronted Amanda about what I had overheard. "I was just talking about how different our interests have become," she said dismissively. "You are making it a bigger deal than it is. They are my friends, and I am just having fun with them." "It sounded like you were embarrassed by me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do not be so sensitive," she replied, starting to clean up rather than continuing the conversation. "If you joined the gym like I have suggested, maybe you would understand better." I helped her clean in silence, the distance between us feeling wider than ever before. The transformation in Amanda extended beyond her physical appearance and social circle. Her entire approach to food underwent a radical shift that created new tensions between us. Where we once enjoyed cooking together, experimenting with recipes from around the world. She now measured every ounce of food and tracked each macronutrient in an app. One evening, I prepared a pasta dish that had always been one of her favorites. Instead of appreciation, she looked at the meal with something resembling disdain. "Do you know how many empty carbs are in that?" she asked. "This is why you are developing that dad bod. No offense, but you really should be more conscious about what you put into your body." I stared at her, stunned by both the criticism and the casual cruelty in her tone. I had always maintained a relatively healthy weight, certainly not athletic, but far from what anyone would call overweight. Her comment stung particularly because she knew I had grown up with a father who constantly criticized my appearance. Our date nights continued to disappear from the calendar, replaced by fitness competitions where Amanda would compete or attend to support her gym friends. When I expressed disappointment about a concert we missed because it conflicted with a bodybuilding show, she rolled her eyes. "This is important for my development," she explained, as if speaking to a child. "Jake says I have potential to place in the upcoming regional competition if I stay focused." Jake's name now entered our conversations with uncomfortable frequency. Jake says my shoulder definition is improving, or Jake thinks my nutrition plan needs adjustment, or worst of all, Jake says most successful people date within the fitness community because they understand the lifestyle. I tried once to join her at the gym, hoping to better understand this world that had captivated her. The experience was disastrous. Amanda seemed embarrassed by my inexperience with the equipment, and I caught her exchanging glances with Jake when I struggled with the weight she considered basic. After that attempt, she never invited me again, and I never volunteered. The tension surrounding our wedding preparations became unbearable 6 months after Amanda's fitness journey began. During what should have been an exciting meeting with a potential wedding venue, she suddenly announced she wanted a complete change of plans. "I have been thinking we should do more of a fitness-themed wedding," she said to both me and the confused venue coordinator. "Maybe at the gym or an outdoor space where we could incorporate a group workout before the ceremony." Later, she complained about my family's traditional expectations. "Your parents are so conventional, Craig. They will probably expect a sit-down dinner with all those unhealthy options." My new friends would feel out of place. When I checked our joint credit card statement, I discovered charges for specialized workout gear, private training sessions with Jake, and an exclusive fitness retreat that she had never mentioned. When confronted, she became defensive. "This is an investment in myself," she argued. "We can cut back on the wedding budget if money is tight." Do we really need all those guests anyway? Most of them would not appreciate the clean menu I want to serve. With each passing day, I felt increasingly like I was losing not just my fiancée, but my identity in what had become her story rather than our story. The woman who had once loved me for exactly who I was now seemed determined to remake me or replace me entirely. The night everything shattered began like many others in our new normal. Amanda returned home after 10 p.m. from what she had described as a team training session at the gym. Her hair was perfectly styled and she was wearing makeup, neither of which made sense for an intense workout. I had spent the evening alone trying to focus on a work project, but increasingly distracted by the growing distance between us. Something felt different that night. Perhaps it was the culmination of months of building tension, or maybe it was the determination I had finally found after weeks of confusion. "We need to talk about what is happening to us," I said as she put away her gym bag. Amanda sighed dramatically. "Craig, I am exhausted. Can this wait until tomorrow?" "No," I replied firmly. "It has already waited too long." We sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we had shared countless meals and conversations in happier times. I asked her directly if she was still committed to our relationship and our future together. After a long pause that already told me everything I needed to know, she finally spoke. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about us. The thing is, Craig, I am not sure you are good enough for me anymore." Despite months of hints and subtle put-downs, hearing those words spoken so explicitly felt like a physical blow. "I have changed," she continued, seemingly encouraged by my stunned silence. "I am on a different trajectory now. Jake and the others at the gym, they see my potential in a way that you cannot. They think, well, they have pointed out that I could probably do better." Do better, I repeated, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. You know what I mean, Amanda said, now fully committed to her cruel honesty. Someone who shares my lifestyle, my goals. Someone who challenges me to be my best self. She reached for my hand in what felt like a mockery of compassion. I feel like you are holding me back from reaching my true potential. So what are you saying exactly? I asked, though I already knew. Maybe we should take a break while I figure things out, she suggested, as though offering a reasonable compromise. I have a lot of competitions coming up, and this wedding planning is adding stress I do not need right now. I sat there, absorbing the full impact of her words. This woman who had once promised to love me for better or worse was now evaluating me like a disappointing investment. The pain was acute, but beneath it something else was building, a sense of clarity I had not felt in months. I nodded slowly and told her I needed some time to process. She seemed almost relieved as she headed to the shower, as though she had successfully completed an unpleasant task. That night, while Amanda slept, I did something I had resisted for months. I looked at her phone. The evidence I found transformed my pain into something harder and colder. The text messages between Amanda and Jake told a story that went far beyond fitness mentorship. They had been meeting secretly for weeks, their conversations full of flirtation and intimacy that crossed every relationship boundary. There were messages making fun of my appearance, my career choices, even the way I spoke. Jake called me the anchor that was dragging down Amanda's potential, and she had not defended me once. There were photos exchanged that made me physically ill, plans for a weekend away that had been disguised as a fitness retreat, and messages from other gym friends encouraging her to leave me for Jake, who apparently had connections in the Port and Rennet fitness industry that could advance her budding aspirations as an influencer. I spent that night in our spare bedroom sleepless and reeling. The next morning I called in sick to work and drove to my best friend Michael's apartment. Michael had been watching Amanda's transformation with growing concern, but had respected my defensiveness whenever he tried to broach the subject. I have been waiting for this conversation, he admitted, as I told him everything, including what I had discovered on her phone. The Amanda I see on Instagram these days is not the Amanda we knew. It is like she has been brainwashed into this whole new identity. Later that week, I visited my parents, who immediately noticed something was wrong. My mother, with her characteristic directness, asked if Amanda was having an affair. When I explained the situation, my father said something that resonated deeply. Son, someone who only loves you when you fit their changing ideal never really loved you at all. For 2 weeks, I moved through life in a fog of pain and confusion. I considered joining the gym, changing my appearance, doing whatever it might take to keep the relationship alive. But during a long solo hike, one of the activities Amanda and I used to enjoy together, I finally confronted the truth I deserved more than conditional love. The sadness that had dominated my emotions began to give way to anger, not a destructive rage, but a clarifying force that helped me see what needed to be done. I realized I had spent months trying to save a relationship while Amanda had already moved on emotionally. My self-respect, which had eroded gradually under her criticism, began to reassert itself. On the drive back from that hike, I made my decision. I would not be the one who got left behind while she figured out if I was good enough. I would be the one to end things on my terms with my dignity intact. The following week, I methodically prepared for what I knew would be one of the most difficult conversations of my life. I consulted with a lawyer about the lease on our apartment, which was in both our names, and about any potential complications with the wedding deposits we had already paid. I opened a separate bank account and transferred my portion of our savings, leaving her share untouched. I researched storage options and temporary housing arrangements, understanding that one of us would need to move out quickly. I also did something that felt important symbolically. I called each of our wedding vendors and canceled the arrangements we had made. With each call, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation, as though I was dismantling a fantasy that had already collapsed. The hardest call was to Amanda's parents, with whom I had always had a warm relationship. Her mother cried when I explained that the wedding was off, and her father, after a long pause, simply said, "I wish I could say I am surprised, Craig. We have been worried about the changes we have seen in her." When the day came to confront Amanda, I felt surprisingly calm. The panic and desperation that had characterized my emotions for months had been replaced by a steady resolve. I waited until she returned from the gym, having texted her earlier that we needed to have an important conversation. She walked in with an air of irritation, clearly annoyed that I was interrupting her schedule. Before she could launch into excuses about being tired or needing to meal prep, I spoke. "Amanda, I am ending our engagement," I said, my voice steady. "I have canceled the wedding arrangements, and I have found a new place to live. I will be moving out this weekend." The shock on her face was almost comical. Clearly, this was not the script she had anticipated. She had expected to control the narrative, to be the one who decided when and how our relationship would end. "What? You cannot do that," she stammered. "We were going to talk about taking a break, not breaking up completely." "I am not interested in being kept on hold while you decide if I am worthy of your time," I replied. "I have seen your messages with Jake. I know what has been happening." Her face flushed, and her strategy shifted instantly from shock to manipulation. "Craig, you are overreacting. Jake is just a friend and mentor. Those messages were taken out of context. I love you, you know that." "No," I said firmly. "I do not think you do love me, at least not the person I actually am. You might have loved who you wanted me to become, or who I was before you decided to change the rules. But that is not real love." Amanda cycled through several more emotional tactics. Anger. "How dare you go through my private messages pleading? We can work through this. I will cut back on gym time and even tears. I never meant to hurt you." None of it affected my resolve. "I deserve someone who values me as I am," I told her. "And honestly, you deserve to find out if this new life you want is really going to make you happy. I will not stand in the way of that." Her final attempt was perhaps the most revealing. "What will everyone think we have sent, save the dates already? This will be so embarrassing. I have already contacted the guests," I informed her. "I took care of it so you would not have to worry about that particular embarrassment." 2 days later, with the help of Michael and 2 other friends, I moved my belongings into a small but comfortable apartment across town. Amanda alternated between angry texts and tearful voicemails, but I maintained minimal contact, engaging only about practical matters like mail forwarding and returning each other's possessions. The weeks that followed were challenging in different ways. I had to field countless questions from mutual friends, many of whom were shocked by the sudden end of what they had perceived as a perfect relationship. Some took sides immediately, but most expressed concern for both of us. What surprised me most was the support that emerged from unexpected places. Amanda's cousin Sophia, who had always been close to us both, reached out to say she was proud of how I had handled things. "She has not been herself for months," Sophia confided. "This gym group she is with now, they are like a cult. They isolate people and convince them to cut ties with anyone who is not part of their world. I focused on rebuilding my life rather than seeking revenge or dwelling on bitterness. I started seeing a therapist to process the experience and understand the patterns that had allowed me to dismiss so many red flags. I reconnected with old friends I had inadvertently neglected during the months of relationship stress. I also discovered new interests that were solely mine. I joined a local photography club, something I had always wanted to explore, but had never prioritized. I volunteered at a coding workshop for underprivileged teens, using my professional skills in a way that felt meaningful. I even adopted a dog from the local shelter, a scraggly mutt named Cooper, who quickly became my loyal companion on hikes and outdoor adventures. 3 months after our breakup, Amanda reached out with a request to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed, curious about what she wanted to say. She looked different, still fit, but somehow less radiant than I remembered. Over an awkward coffee, she revealed that things with Jake had fallen apart spectacularly. He had moved on to mentoring and dating a newer gym member, a pattern that Amanda had finally recognized as his standard approach. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. "I threw away something real for something that was completely fake. I miss us, Craig. I miss the life we had planned." Looking at her, I realized something that brought me an unexpected sense of peace. I felt nothing beyond a mild sympathy for her situation. The woman I had once thought was my soulmate now seemed like a distant acquaintance who had taught me a valuable but painful lesson. "I wish you well, Amanda," I said sincerely, "but we cannot go back. I hope you find what you are looking for." As I walked away from that coffee shop, I felt the last weight of our relationship finally lift from my shoulders. I had not only survived losing the future I had planned, I had created a new path that felt more authentically mine than ever before. The journey of rebuilding my self-confidence was neither quick nor linear. There were days when doubts would creep in, when I would look in the mirror and hear echoes of Amanda's criticisms. But those moments became less frequent and less powerful as time passed. I discovered that dating after such an experience was both more challenging and more rewarding than I expected. I was more cautious, certainly, but also more aware of what I truly valued in a partner. I had a few brief connections that helped me remember what genuine mutual attraction felt like, but I was in no rush to enter another serious relationship. My friendships deepened in ways they never could have when I was pouring all my energy into trying to save a failing relationship. Michael and I started a weekend hiking group that grew to include a diverse mix of people who shared stories and perspectives around campfires under starlit skies. About 6 months after the breakup, I ran into Amanda at a local farmer's market. She was alone looking at avocados when we accidentally made eye contact. The momentary panic I felt was quickly replaced by a calm neutrality. "Hello, Craig," she said, her voice carrying a note of wistfulness. "You look really good." "Thanks," I replied. "How have you been?" We exchanged brief pleasantries before naturally drifting back to our separate shopping. As I walked away, I realized the encounter had affected me far less than I might have expected. There was no lingering pain, no desire to prove anything, just the peaceful recognition that we were now different people on different paths. That evening, reflecting on the chance meeting, I understood how completely I had healed. The experience that had once threatened to destroy my sense of self had ultimately strengthened it. I had learned to recognize the difference between compromise and sacrifice, between growth and transformation, between love and its many counterfeits. The truth I now carried forward was simple but profound. The right person does not demand that you become someone else to be worthy of love. Real partnership celebrates who you are while encouraging you to grow into your best self, not someone else's vision of perfection. I do not know if Amanda ever found happiness in the fitness lifestyle she pursued so desperately, but I did find mine in the freedom of choosing myself, in the quiet dignity of walking away from conditional love, and in the knowledge that I would never again allow someone else to determine my worth. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who decided you were not good enough anymore? Leave a comment below sharing your experience and let me know if you would have handled things differently. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about finding strength through difficult relationships. And remember, sometimes losing someone who does not truly value you is the beginning of finding yourself. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to choose yourself when faced with conditional love.